It's another fine day at Camp Dynasty. I am Counselor Austin, joined by Counselor Collin, and we made it. It is our last week talking about the 2025 college football season. Week 14, rivalry week, 8 more badges, and then we are on to Camp Dynasty's draft season.
Unbelievable how it comes and goes. I mean, we talk about it at the beginning of the season, how it feels like you have so much time ahead of you, but you know that it goes by in a blink, and then you get there. It's been a blink, and it's already been a full college season. We've already been spent a full year with these players, and I don't know if I know any more now than I did at the beginning of the
year. Same, and that's what the next 2 months are going to be for, is figuring out exactly what we have here with this interesting 2026 group. But one that I think you and I, through the season, through all of these badges that we've handed out this year, I think we've come away feeling a little bit better about the state of this class. Like I am feeling some excitement about the 26 guys, maybe not all position groups equally, but there's definitely some really fun parts to this class.
Yeah,
And
it's not like fast forward to
yeah,
2027, maybe like a lot of people were thinking. There's definitely some names, especially, you look at, I'd say, even the top like 6 of this class, I feel really comfortable with. And that wasn't something I would have said at the beginning of the year. So I feel like we're in a much better place than we were, summer, even through like mid-season. There was still a lot of questions. I feel like a lot of things have cleared up, and we'll get into that next week with a mock draft.
Oh yeah, we will. And sounds like we might have a special guest joining us for that mock draft too. Fingers
Hell yeah.
crossed. But before we jump into the badges, I also do want to just take a moment, because we, like, the end of the year for us it doesn't really mean anything. Like, oh, we're in the middle of rankings 2.0. That's pretty cool. But like, our seasons run from June to May type of thing. Like, but Spotify Wrapped comes out in December. And so this is the moment of time where you get to find out your top songs and your top artists and all of that. That's all exciting. But for us, we also get a little bit of a glimpse at our calendar year at Camp Dynasty. And so that came out today, and there's a little bit of a tweet out there on our Twitter account. But I just want to take a moment to say thank you if you have stopped by Camp Dynasty, if you are a weekly listener here, if this is just another week listening to Camp Dynasty, or maybe you found week 14, 2025. This was the first episode that hit your For You page or something. But regardless, if you've spent any time here at all this year, any other year, if you've been here since we were talking about Bijan Robinson, 3.5 years ago, thank you. And this was a big year for us. We have a lot of new folks stopping by to check us out, so we appreciate that. We do this for the love of the game, but it is always, we're always very grateful that folks want to stop by and hang out with us along the way.
Yeah, of course. Doesn't hurt that you guys don't mind listening. It's always nice to, have feedback and hear from you guys, and the comments and the likes. They all matter. Even though we would do it either way, it is nice to see what you guys like and how you guys feel, and the responses that you have to the content that we're putting out. So thank you, appreciate it. Let's have the same kind of jump from this year to next year.
Amen. And 2026, it's New Year's resolution time of the year. Start thinking about that. We got some things coming next year. Some things are in the works, some new stuff. We're trying to elevate the game a little bit. And one of the things that I want to do next year, I want to make sure that anybody who's taken the time to stop by here also feels like they have a voice in this conversation. More comments on YouTube, hit us up on Twitter, comment on Spotify. You can do that. Just let us know what you're thinking. We want to, we want this to be a two-way conversation as much as anything else. That's what draft season's all about. It's about the arguments over who's, RJ Harvey like we had last year. Like that's the fun of the game. So, yeah, 2026 we'll be, taking some steps to try to encourage a little bit more of that. But
We're gonna
in the
keep building
meantime,
cabins.
we will keep building cabins. There is always more room for more counselors to join us here at Camp
Stick
Dynasty.
around, get comfortable.
But in the meantime, we have week 14 of 2025 to talk about. And as was the case, I think 70% of the time this season, Tails did not fail, and you got the last first pick of the year.
That's right. And I'm taking. I took a lot of time to decide this because I was like, man, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right player for the last first pick. And I think nobody was more deserving than Kaytron Allen this week, running back for Penn State, who had 226 rushing yards against Rutgers and a touchdown, and then added 12 receiving yards on 2 receptions. He's getting the slow and steady badge because if you watch this game, you probably saw Kaytron Allen get caught from behind on breakaways 3 times, 4 times. Like it felt like either running out of gas or just doesn't have that, next gear that maybe you see out of these top running backs. But he is just churning out yards, big play after big play, nice, solid work on the ground, just pretty consistently in this game for Penn State. So I was just pretty impressed with the season that he's put together so far this year. 1,303 yards, 15 touchdowns, put 1 on the ground on 210 attempts. So this is a pretty premier stat line, I would say, out of a back that maybe wasn't really on our radar before the season. Like we mentioned Singleton a lot. We were kind of heavy on Singleton since really, our first year doing this. We've kind of like had an eye on Singleton, and he had a good game here against Rutgers too. Nothing like a lot of those touchdowns Allen didn't score. Singleton ended up scoring. He'd come in and kind of poach him, but Allen ended up taking the reins of this backfield. We've mentioned this a few times, pretty much week 8 onward, where he's getting, 19 plus carries every single week and over 20 in all but one of those since week 8. And he's done extremely well. He's at 6.2 a carry on the season. Just efficient, hard running, strong runner, and like I said, doesn't have that top gear, but that's what Singleton can come in and be your home run hitter after Kaytron Allen's just getting on base play after play. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know a ton about baseball. That felt right though.
He hit a bunch of triples in this game. Couldn't
Right.
quite get the home run.
That's right.
But the last 3 weeks has been very interesting for Kaytron Allen because I think this was a player that I watched coming into the year that I thought was, he's a good player. And it's obvious, like has had 3 good seasons at Penn State leading up to this one. But it's some of the things that even we're talking about in this game where it's like he doesn't have that top end athleticism where he's finishing these runs. He's not a player that's catching a lot of passes. They have an excellent pass catching back in Nick Singleton. So obviously that's going to limit, the opportunities for Allen regardless. But so there's like some parts of his game that I just thought were a little bit uninspiring. Thought he was a fine, day 3 sort of running back talent. And that's kind of how this season was going. It was like he's on pace for another good year, but like we're not getting the full, breakout experience or anything. And then all of a sudden here in the last 3 weeks, he's just exploding. I mean, we didn't give any badges in week 12. He would have got one there. We gave him a badge last week. We're giving him another one this week. This is his, easily his best performance of the season, over 200 yards. And you're talking about a player here who had 79% of his yards in this game on runs of 15 or more yards. 5 different attempts went for 15 or more yards. So this, again, it's not a player that has like explosive athleticism, breakaway speed, or any of that, but like he is finding ways to create yards time in and time out. It's like all of a sudden here, I'm kind of excited to watch Kaytron Allen again. Like I'm excited to see what does this 2025 film look like, because he is clearly taken a step forward in basically every part of his game this year. I mentioned this last week, but the yards after contact per attempt number, he's on pace for a career best in that department. And he raised it this week with, 108 after contact. That was 4.91 per attempt. He's a big player that really like didn't run with a ton of power leading up to this season. That was one of my big criticisms with him as well. Like you're 220 pounds, you're a little bit bowling ball-esque build, but he's not really running with the power I'd expect. We're seeing that kind of come on this year, and he's also adding, those missed tackles forced to go along with that. So the stat sheet looks great. The last 3 weeks have looked great from what I've seen. I'm excited to see what this year of film shows us for Kaytron Allen.
Kaytron Allen, number 11 in the nation in missed tackles forced this season. He is just above Jeremiah Love. So you talk about, a guy that is known for his ability to make people miss. Kaytron Allen right above him, more so on the power front, like you said, kind of shedding tackles rather than, leaving guys' shoes.
Yeah.
Whatever.
leaving guys' shoes behind. Kaytron Allen, better than Jeremiah Love.
That's what I said. 101, Kaytron Allen. Juking guys out of their shoes is what I was trying to get at there.
Yeah.
I can communicate. Great. That's what my degree is.
You're doing great. You know who else was doing great this week?
Let me know.
A player that we called out last week. It was TJ Parker. So we waited the entire season to give him a call. Like all year long. It was like, man, TJ Parker's been kind of disappointing this year. And it would be like, should we call him this week? No, let's call this guy instead. And then last week it was like, all right, it's finally time to make this call. And immediately after that happens, TJ Parker has easily his best performance of the season against South Carolina, which, I mean, maybe we should have seen this one coming because we've talked at length about the South Carolina offensive line and the struggles that they've had protecting Lenore Sellers. But TJ Parker took full advantage in this game. 10 pressures in this one. He had 3 sacks according to the official stat keeping numbers, which I did look at this week. He did have 4 according to PFF. So whatever you want to believe, this was an excellent game for TJ Parker. So he was, and he was showing you a lot of the things that we liked about him in the summer when we watched him, like the varied pass rush attack. His 3 official sacks came on 3 different moves. There was the swipe rip, and then 2 power sacks where he's got the stab move on one of them, and that was kind of like an effort play where he's just driving in, basically collapsing the pocket and then finding a way to get an arm on the quarterback on Sellers, and then a bull rush. So it's like you have this multi-pronged attack. It's speed, it's power, it's all of the things. And when it wasn't resulting in a sack, it was resulting in Sellers is getting the ball out quick, or there was one where I think he just got it away, would have been an official 4th sack otherwise, but he was an absolute menace in this one. He's getting the call and response badge because he answered our call.
I love that. And I said last week, I was like, if you can't do it against Furman, who can you do it against? And of course it's South Carolina, because we've been talking about the Sellers end of this almost ad nauseum for this entire year, where we're like, can we please protect Sellers? Sellers, you got to get rid of the ball sooner. You're holding on to it too long. And also, this O-line's doing nothing to help protect him. And TJ Parker, thankfully, like takes full advantage. This is exactly the type of performance you want to see in a game that, like, you could see he's like fully engaged, even though Clemson, like, not very good, maybe like not a ton to play for in this game. But Parker is like, man, I have barbecue chicken in front of me, and we're going out and we're gonna feast because it's gonna be, you know, a long night for Sellers back there. And yeah, I mean 10 pressures, that checks out to the eye test. The guy was like in the backfield the entire game, making Sellers run around, making him throw it probably earlier than he wanted to, extending these plays. So definitely a dominant performance from Parker, and much needed kind of refreshing performance from Parker, because it was getting, you know, 2 sacks before this. It was like, man, I just don't love what I'm seeing. And that's why last week we called home, because it had been since week 6 or week 4 he had his last sack. And it was like, what's going on? What are we doing here? And it was just nice to see that, you know, full display. Let's go leave it all out there in week 14.
And something else I forgot to mention from this game that I'd love to see, because this, like, Clemson's having a terrible year. Parker himself's not having a good year, but he had a fumble recovery in this game where he was in coverage. He was covering the flat, and this pass is completed 20 yards down the field, and ball gets punched out, and who recovers it? It's TJ Parker, 20 yards, like running 20 yards from covering the flat, getting up the field and diving on a loose football. Like the effort play there, where it's like you're not even involved in this at all, but
Yeah.
he's chasing it down thinking he's going to get a tackle on this, and he ends up getting the ball.
Right.
So to see the effort out of, I know last week we kind of were poking some fun at an article that was calling him high motor and, you know, all that, but like when you have a guy that's putting in that kind of effort from this position in a season like this, in a year like this for him, like that does mean a little bit of something to me.
No, I 100% agree. In a game that, like I said before, like probably doesn't matter a ton. Like it's just not, like, you could sit out this game and I don't think anybody's going to fault you, you know, if you're
Right.
going to be a first round pick. And we don't know for sure, like that's TJ Parker's fate, but like that's how we felt going into the season. And like, I think you go back to the tape and you watch it, you probably feel pretty good, like better about it than looking at what, you know, week to week. But having a game like this in a game that, like, quote unquote doesn't matter, where you're just, you know, all over the place, you're giving full effort, you're, you know, whooping the guy's ass in front of you, and then you're going and chasing down plays from the backside. It's just a nice thing to see out of a player that maybe you had a couple questions about.
Another player in this very game that was popping off the screen while I was watching TJ Parker was
Vandrevius Jacobs. This was, so funny story. I originally picked Nick Harbor for this spot because they both had big games on this South Carolina offense, because this Clemson defense is pretty bad. You know, you talk about like a fun game to watch. It was this Clemson South Carolina game because there was a lot of stuff going on. I picked Nick Harbor because I was like, I remember him catching that deep post, and like he had a nice game, and then you go back and rewatch it. It's like, he had a pick off his chest, and then he fumbled and basically lost him the game completely, because the pick was a pick six to put Clemson up, I think, 2 scores, and then he fumbled when they were, and it was like, that was a disaster. And Jacobs was all over the place in this game. He's getting the chunk badge. Had 20 yards per reception, 7 catches, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. Jacobs has gotten a badge before. I think it was week 4 against Missouri, where he was kind of doing the same thing, just all the time. Like that, he's a thin receiver. He's fast. He's smooth. He gets in and out of his breaks really well. He catches the ball pretty naturally, and then he like transitions into a runner really smoothly, and it turns these, you know, routine maybe plays into these huge chunk plays. He had a couple in this game where it was just like, man, he can fly. And yeah, he's benefiting maybe from this extended Sellers extending so many of these plays where he can do like some second reaction stuff rather than just straight beat you one on one. But I feel like there's also like this element. He catches a hole shot when they were down 14-7, and the corner kind of like half plays the ball. The safety cuts down from over the top and kind of misplays it. It almost kind of looked like the Minneapolis Miracle play with Stephon Diggs, where it's just like nobody really played it right except for Jacobs, and so he gets it and goes down the sideline and scores. And it was like, man, this is kind of like, I don't know if Vandrevius is like special, but there are some moments where it's just like, man, this is an incredible athlete that can, with decent volume, can put together some really sick performances. A little bit injury prone. He's sat out here and there all throughout the season, but when he's on the field and he's getting good volume, he's fun as hell to watch.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to figure that out. Like, has he been dealing with injuries this year? Because, I mean, this is like, when you look at his season, it's kind of shocking. I mean, like, we gave him that badge earlier in the year. He had a really strong start to the season in weeks 4 and 5, over 100 yards receiving in each of those games. And then from that point forward, it's like 2 months of nothing. Like, multiple games where he's got 3 targets, no catches, another 0 catch, 0 yard performance in the week before this one. So it's like, I don't know if, like, I couldn't find anything that said he was like dealing with injuries leading up to these games. I don't know if he's getting knocked out of these games or something, but like, this is like the ultimate roller coaster player this season. But when he hits, and he did this week. So this is a red shirt sophomore. So one of these guys that this program might just implode on itself after this season, and all of these guys might leave. So maybe a player that we are keeping our eyes on in the portal, perhaps this offseason, and looking ahead once again to 2027.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunate for this 2026 class, but with the missed games, is probably gonna end up, because like if you project out what he did to like a 14 game pace, if you just take like the games that he played, a decent like number of snaps in, because like you look at like the Coastal Carolina game, he played 9 snaps. The Southern Carolina State game, he played 10 snaps. Virginia Tech game, he played 14 snaps. If he's playing like a full host of snaps in all these games, like I'm just interested to see what that looks like for a full season. So on like a better program that, like, because when you're a deep threat, it's really feast or famine if your O-line's not good. Because like you got to win early if you're a deep threat, and like throw with anticipation and get that thing down the field, and that's really hard to do when your O-line is giving you 2.5 seconds max. So would like to see him, maybe he can go with Sellers somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Why not?
And, been here in Miami for Sellers a little bit. I think you were on that trail already like 4 weeks ago. But
come on, I'm on the beat.
Are you a college football insider that I don't actually know about?
I can't say.
I'd have to kill you.
Plead the fifth.
Well, I am very pleased to say that we have some running backs on the show this week. We had Kaytron Allen to kick off the show, and we are going to keep it rolling with Emmett Johnson this week, who is getting his second badge now of this season. Emmett Johnson, the running back from Nebraska, having an incredible season. He is currently the number 3 overall rusher in college football with 1,451 yards, 12 touchdowns. This week against Iowa, he had his season best 217 yards on 29 carries, had a touchdown with that as well. But Emmett Johnson is one of these players that in this running back class that is like he was a basically an unknown name, certainly to you and I would assume the greater, you know, NFL draft community as well. This was not a name that was being talked about much. Player coming off of a 597-yard season, only had one touchdown last year, completely exploding this season and putting himself firmly on the map. And in this sort of a running back class, like probably going to be in this draft class. I mean, I'd be very surprised if he wasn't. He is a true junior, I believe. So I would be very surprised if Emmett Johnson opts to return to school off of a season like this. And so trying to kind of understand who this player is. I mentioned the first go around when we gave him the badge, it was like from what I was watching, like what the traits and the skill and like what you're looking for, it wasn't quite matching up with the production numbers. I kind of feel the same after watching this one, but at the same time, this one was clearly like this was a really good game for him. Like specifically as a tackle breaker in this game, he had 10 missed tackles forced in this one. I think 5 of those came on one play where he just absolutely like ran through like 3 guys and then like jump cut another guy. And it was just like, it was kind of crazy to watch some of the things he was doing in this game. He's getting it was snowing in this game, and I'm giving him the Krampus badge
Ooh, I like
because
that.
he was a nightmare, but also like Krampus kind of didn't mean like kind of wasn't that real because Iowa also blew out Nebraska somehow, like despite the 217-yard performance. But yeah, this was a really good game for Emmett Johnson. I came away really impressed.
Yeah, I like Emmett Johnson. I mean, he looks like kind of tall and thin, but
Yeah.
he's 5'11", 200 pounds, which I guess isn't huge, but it's not like a small player, and you can kind of tell that he has really solid balance and instinct, and he good football IQ, reads the field well, kind of like understands his assignment kind of at all times, and that's all A+ work, I would say, for Emmett Johnson. Not like again, kind of the same story with Kaytron Allen, like not the freakiest athlete where he's gonna like hit the hole and he's going 80 yards to the house if you don't get a hand on him there. But when you're consistently just churning out these 5-6 yards and you end up with a 7.5 per carry in this game, and you got 5.8 on the season, where you're getting 29 carries in this game. They're basically entrusting you with their entire offensive workload, and you deliver. I mean, he's had games like this in the past, not quite to this extent, but games where he is just like abusing the other team, and the run game for Nebraska is dictating terms. There was one run where I was like, I think it was a 70-yard run. I don't remember if he scored or if he was just short on that. I think he might have scored. But
So I was actually going to bring that one up because he got tackled from behind and was down at like it was a review. They called it a touchdown and it ended up being like he's down by like an inch.
yeah,
But like it was kind of weird to see him get caught there because the first time I watched him, I was kind of thinking he had like some breakaway speed. Like he was a legit burner. And I came away from this one like, wait a minute.
So
I don't know.
have you ever like watched a TV from like the wrong angle, and like everybody looks like they're running super slow? You know what I'm talking about? Like you kind of
I think so.
That's kind of how I felt watching him on that run. I was like, are we gonna unhitch the trailer here?
Yeah.
Like, let's go, man. We got a score here. And I was like, where Kaytron, I feel like that's kind of the book on him is he's a big beefy kind of power runner. Johnson 5'11", 200. We gotta go, man. And I felt like on that one it was like I would have loved, but it doesn't. It's a 70-yard run, like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't, obviously it's like he created a big play on
Yeah.
that one. It just the first time I watched, and I believe I was even talking about it on that episode, was like, I don't know that he's the most like explosive lateral mover. Like he's not like one of these like big time, like I'm making my jump cut and like I'm getting in the phone booth against guys. But what I saw in that game was like he was getting into space and like there was a third and a fourth
Mm-hmm.
gear that he was getting
Yeah, he's
into.
kind of gashing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I mean, and he does have I think 15 he has 13 runs of 15 or more yards, which I actually thought was kind of low. Like, because you see a player with 1,400 yards that flashed a little bit of speed, and it was like 13. Like, I'm pretty sure the most is Jeremiah Love with 24 or something. So, like, you're way behind the clip at that point. But regardless, I mean, he's got a little bit of speed. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe he's not a 4-3 guy, but he can get outside and he can turn up the sideline. And the other part about Johnson that is exciting is that he is a pass catcher. He's been catching a lot of passes for them this year. 46 receptions, 370 yards receiving. He only had 2 catches in this one for 22 yards, but just a few weeks ago he had a 103-yard performance. I think that might have been the one that we gave him the badge for, was the 129 and 103 performance that he had. But yeah, regardless, I mean, like, is he a perfect running back prospect? Of course not. But like in a running back class like this, to have a player like this emerge, I'll take it.
I wonder if there's a bingo card out there in a running back class, in this kind of running back
Yeah.
class. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. When the Camp Dynasty bingo, that like now is the time to make the card, because now we're going to get into draft season and we're going to talk about Emmett Johnson. It's going to be like, in a running back class like this one, he's RB4 and it's exciting. All right, who's next? This is another repeat badge getter.
That's right. I think we definitely talked about him week 4 against SMU for a performance that he had. I don't know if we've talked about him since, but we have Eric McAlister, wide receiver at TCU. He's number 1, 6'3", 205 player with 1,100 yards on the season, 10 touchdowns on 63 grabs. It's good for 17.5 per catch. He's getting the making it happen badge, because there were a few plays in this game where the touchdown was just like so sick. It's the classic, quarterback is throwing it to you while the DB has his back to the quarterback. So he's basically just like 2 arms shoving McAlister out of bounds, and he goes up over the top and snatches it, mosses him. He caught like a 3rd down where he would have been short of the sticks, like it was like 3rd and 6, I think, and he catches it probably 2.5 yards short of the line to gain, and does like a triple spin move to go like grid out a 1st down. And then he had like a big dig that he caught later in the game, broke a tackle, and it was like, man, it's just every time he's touching the ball, great things are happening for TCU. And so I was just, a player that has some size in a class that a lot of these guys are sitting at, 5'11", $185, 6 foot, $190. And McAlister, like Denzel Boston, are players that are up over that 6 foot mark and can play that X receiver position. McAlister was just making it happen in this game every time he touched the ball.
The Senior Bowl, the accepted Senior Bowl stuff has started to come in now this week. And this is one of those names that I'm really hoping gets his own little card in the near future from the Panini Senior Bowl account now, which still I really still hate that so much.
Nagy's not doing it this year, right?
Yeah, Nagy is gone.
Okay. Do we know who?
I forget who it.
I'm kind of glad. I don't really need to like have a guy be the face of it.
Yeah, we don't need a face of the Senior Bowl anymore.
I do wish just the players are.
I really wish it was still the Reese's Senior
Yeah,
Bowl,
Reese's
but
was a great brand. McAlister, I'll let you keep doing some research.
okay, go yeah.
McAlister, talking about the size, it matches up with the production that he puts out. Plays 95% of his snaps out wide, so this is not like a big slot player. I think he could play big slot. Like we talk about some of these guys and like whether his play can translate. I think McAlister could absolutely move
He's
around.
a yak guy.
Yeah, he's a yak guy. He can go out there and he can, churn out. He has 519 yards after the catch, so that's about half of his yards total on the season. He has like these moments where he gets the ball over the middle or he gets the ball on the outside and he just like does something sick and he like makes one guy miss on a lot of these catches. I mean, he's not like he has 26 missed tackles forced in 14 games. So he's doing this, almost twice a game where he's gonna make it, make some yards out of nothing. So McAlister probably could be used in the slot a little more, moved around a little more, but TCU does their kind of thing and they have their, set roles and they don't really change it up a whole lot.
So the current executive director of the Senior Bowl is Drew Fabianic. Fabianich,
Sure.
which the fact that I've never heard that name before in my life is actually a real positive because that means that he's not out front and center like trying to tell everybody how much he knows more than them like Jim Nagy was by
Yeah.
the end of his tenure. But so that's where the Senior Bowl is at. But I hope Eric McAlister is going to be there because we got Josh Cameron was one that I saw come in one of the wide receivers that I'm excited to see there. I think McAlister probably ends up there when it's all said and done. I mean, like he's having an awesome season,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about him earlier in the year. This is not a player that's like coming out of thin air here. For like this is a player that was at Boise State for 2 years and had a really strong sophomore season with Boise State and transferred to TCU following that season of 873 yards, 5 touchdowns. Didn't have quite the year that I was expecting last year, but now he is having that season this year with the 1100 yard, 10 touchdown. So this is a breakout senior season for him for sure, and it's a player that has a little bit of a background to respect, and like you said, the size, the yak ability, like the catch point ability, like there's a lot to like here with McAlister.
He's had 2 games with 17 targets, a game with 14 targets. He's had over 100 yards in every game since week 7 but 2. So this is a guy that they know is their number one and treats him as such and turns into, a lot of these kind of performances this week and just spotlighting it at week 14 before we close camp.
Man, the beauty is we close camp, but the fun is just beginning.
It's true.
Really. Well, here's another running back that I hope we're going to be talking about for the next couple of months at least, and that is Tre Wisner from Texas. Full name is Quintravion, which
Awesome.
hell of a name,
Yeah.
but goes by Trey, and that's one syllable, so I'm going to go with that. But Tre Wisner was a player that I believe got the honorable mention shout out in the summer scouting running backs episode as a player that was coming off of 1,000-yard season for Texas last year. And it was sort of like, could he have a huge year this year? Like there's multiple names in that backfield, and there was last year too. But he finds a way to have 1,000-yard season. Will he be the lead guy this year? Will he fully break out this year? And that's not what we've seen from Wisner. I mean, he was hurt for a spell at the beginning of the season, but even once he got back on the field, he wasn't getting, the carries, the yardage numbers weren't necessarily, anything to write home about. But this week, in the biggest game of the season against undefeated Texas A&M, the rivalry game, possible playoff chances still alive if they were to win this game. And it was really Tre Wisner that won them this game. I mean, Arch, we might be talking about Arch later, but Tre Wisner had easily his best game of the season with 20 carries for 162 yards. Did not have a touchdown in this one, but did have 2 catches for 19 yards as well. And he looked great in this game. I mean, he was running with power. He was running with a little bit of elusiveness. 5.4 yards after contact per attempt in this one. He's getting the finisher badge from me because he was consistently finishing runs with power, escaping the first tackler. And also, a lot of his yards came in the second half of this game. He really helped put them over the edge in the second half and ultimately win this game. So this was a really encouraging performance. It's a player here where I'm not convinced that he'll be in this draft class just because this hasn't been the season that I'm sure he was expecting, that we were hoping to see, obviously. He does have another year of eligibility, and he's only 20 years old. He will, if he were to declare for this year's draft, he would be 20 on draft day. He turns 21 in May. So very young player, could opt to return to school next year and still only be 21 years old when he's drafted as a senior. But maybe this performance is the start of something, and maybe he does end up in this class after all.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if he was in this class. I mean, we keep talking about these players that are having, good seasons or good stretches of seasons, and, maybe they're going to push it to 20. How many guys can be in the 2027 class?
Yeah, right.
There's still, we're only talking about the skill positions. There's still O linemen,
Yeah.
there's still a D line. Like, damn, man, there's so many guys. No, I'm joking, but yeah, Tre Wisner in this game, he had a move in the first half that was so sick where this guy was kind of stretching him out to the edge, and he just gave him like a quick little like shoulder fake to the inside, and the guy just fell. And it was like, man, that's awesome. And then he got like 8 more yards and dove into another guy. And there's just a few of those kind of plays where he's sorting things out, and he's got this like twitchy kind of vibe to him where he can just like on a dime change directions, and that was a nice change of pace versus like the first 2 guys that we were watching, where it's like these guys are kind of churning these out and kind of working you, wearing you down, and you watch Wisner and he's like, man, don't get into space with me, because it's gonna be, I don't want to embarrass you, and that might happen. But yeah, this was, in the Texas 5 too. It always looks good. Just a few plays. He had speaking of closer, end of the first half, he got them basically in field goal range on a reception. But there's just a lot of these plays where it's like when the offense needs it most, counting on Wisner.
Yeah, he caught that pass, got into field goal range, and then the very next play, Arch got absolutely lit up.
I didn't want to. I didn't want to bring it up.
I get it. Okay, well, we have done a very good job this year with IDP, and we've already had one on this episode. We're gonna have another one right here.
I can't stop bringing up Tahj Ra-El. I'm sorry. He's on the program again today. He was last on the program week 10 for his game against Michigan. This week, or no, I think I had him on for Ohio State is who he had him on for. He played Indiana this week, rivalry week, Purdue, Indiana. And if you're not familiar, which I understand, this is the box safety that plays for Purdue. Number 21, he's 6'2", 210 pounds. And man, he's getting the umbrella badge because like he is over the top of this defense. Guys are just flying through these holes untouched, and Ra-El has to come up and like clean up everything. He is the cleanup crew. He's the safety valve. Like whatever you want to call him. Like he's moved just pretty much fully into a box safety role for this game. Most of the season he spent pretty equal between box and free safety. Played a little slot here and there, depended on the game, depended on who they were playing, what they were playing against. This game played 37 snaps in the box, 9 at free safety, 7 in the slot. So he was just all over the place and turned it into really good production. 14 tackles, 2 assisted tackle, only missed 1 total in this game. Was fine in coverage. I mean, that's not his forte. Is he's not the coverage safety that you're looking for. He can stick a tight end if you need him to. He can play well against the slot if you need him to. But he's really there to lay the lumber. And I was just against these good teams that are beating the shit out of you, and you just see 21 at the end of every play. 7 yards downfield, making this tackle, and then shaking his head, damn, man, again, I gotta why can't we just meet him at the line of scrimmage or get a tackle for loss? But yeah, I just he's a good tackler and he's a big safety, and these guys can end up being solid IDP assets when you come to the league, because the DB group in general is pretty thin, and especially guys that consistently put together these high tackle performances. So I said to you when I sent this, I was like, I hope he's a guy, because I watch him and I'm like, God, he's just a cleanup crew out there. He's just all over the place. He's there's no play where you feel like he's just kind of walking into frame at the end of it. He's feels like he's getting involved all the time. And yes, he did leak a playbook. Don't look up his name. Whatever. that if you're who is this guy? And you're oh, I was only at Memphis for a year. Don't worry about it, okay?
The character red flags in the scouting report, well documented.
Yeah.
But
that's why you get him at a discount.
Yes, exactly. PFF has him credited for 119 tackles this season. So from the safety position, that's not bad. I'm willing to bet it probably leads college football among safeties. I should probably verify that before I run my mouth about it. But yeah, this is one of those guys that it's if he gets drafted, which I can't speak right now to be I'm going to pound the table that he's a day 3 safety pick. But if he's one of these guys that's getting, that sort of, late round capital, but he ends up in a spot where it's I can kind of see him, these are the kinds of players that you got to be interested in, because whether or not he's a good safety, that's not the question. The question is he good enough to see the field? And if he is, you can probably rely on him to get tackles.
That's what I'm saying, man.
That's what it's all about. I mean, IDP, it's more and more every year. I'm just I don't really care if you're actually a good player. I just need to know that you can put up the stats. For a while there, it was man, I don't really want these linebackers that are every week it feels like they're a play away from losing their job. But then it's they don't lose the job, because who else is going to play that spot?
Exactly.
It's and they're just going to keep getting tackles. So
yeah, he's number 1 among defensive backs. He's number 10 overall in all of college football.
Damn. So there you go. Potential IDP weapon.
That's what I'm saying, man. I mean, even if he's on a bad team, just running around out there, just cleaning up tackles, why not? Throw him on the roster. Throw him on the watch list for now. Don't gotta draft him.
Yeah.
If he's a 6th-round pick to the Dolphins, yeah. We're good. We don't have to spend a 4th on him.
But your league mates aren't. They won't even have a clue who this
right.
is.
They'll be
just put that little star on him.
And then you start seeing the preseason. We're seeing some good things. Maybe throw him on the taxi. I don't know.
All right. The last badge of the 2025 college football season is going to another player that has already received a badge this year. And it's Terrance Carter Jr. the tight end from Texas Tech, a player that, kind of came into this season as, one of the more buzzy tight end names. He's coming off of a great season with the Ragin' Cajuns, 691 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think we talked about that when we talked about him the first time. A player known for his ability after the catch at this position, and maybe a little bit undersized. And that's certainly going to factor into like what we're thinking about him in terms of an NFL draft projection and, analysis. But he's having an awesome season on one of the best teams in the country at one of the, at a much higher level of competition than where he was at last year. This week against West Virginia, season highs in targets, receptions, and not quite yards, but almost there. He had 10 catches on 12 targets, 98 yards in this one. But one number that really sticks out this week, 5 missed tackles forced in one game
Oh
from a
yeah.
tight end. He has 21 on the season. That is easily the most among tight ends. It's one of the highest in the sport, tied for 6th among all pass catchers in terms of missed tackles forced, 4 more than the next tight end. So, yes, he's 6'2". He's listed at 245, and maybe it's more like 240. But one thing that Terrance Carter has proven this season is that he is one of these yak kind of nightmare tight end guys. And I'm not like he's not Harold Fannin, but like we've seen what Harold Fannin is doing in the NFL as a player that made a name for himself as a little bit of an undersized tight end that broke a shit ton of tackles at the college level. So maybe a little bit of a discount Harold Fannin situation forming here.
Yeah, why not? I was honestly like watching him just runs like a running back with the ball in his hands. And that's I mean, I may sound like a broken record. I've said it before, I've said it again. As long as you can run after the catch as a tight end, I'm in. Like I don't care how good you are, like how many offenses are scheming like man beaters for their tight ends. Very few. You know, you're talking about the guys when you say that. And sure, maybe you want that, but I would rather, not bet on the outlier and just look at these guys that are awesome tackle breakers that will just get the ball in the flat and get you 10 yards instead of like 3. And that's what Terrance Carter can do. In this game, he's basically responsible for 3 touchdowns. He had one where he's down at the half-yard line. Had one where, like, the gravity, like, just him being there pulls 2 guys over that way. And then the same thing happened on another touchdown where they're playing cover 3, but the field safety is, like, pushing that over top of Carter while he's also being covered by somebody else, so the seam's wide open. It's like, this guy matters. This guy is a part of the defensive game plan. It's like, watch out for 7, and he still goes 10 catches, 98 yards, and should have had a touchdown. Like, he reached for it and like was down by like this much. So I mean, it's impressive watching him. I don't really like. I don't need you to be 6'5" to be a good tight end. Like, that's not important to me. You can be 245 if you can hold your own as a blocker, and you can be decent. Like, if you can be good after the catch, that's all I need out of you. And we'll see, like, when we get deeper into all 22 and like we can break down film and stuff, how he is as a blocker, and maybe we can reevaluate who this is as a player at that point, and if he's going to be a like actual guy or not. But I was pretty impressed. He did have one play where he got picked off while he was targeted.
Yeah.
Didn't love the throw, but
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. At first I was like, do I want to blame him but then I was like, no, that was a horrible decision.
Yeah, just don't throw that one. Throw it out of the back of the end zone.
I'm really glad that you brought up the
Oh, it
the
was Rodriguez that
gravity.
threw it.
Oh, wait, was it?
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
I didn't even notice,
They
honestly.
did the Wildcat package and Rodriguez threw it to him.
Okay.
I totally yeah.
All right. Now the Rodriguez offensive snaps seem kind of effed up.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
I'm really glad you mentioned that about the gravity that the orbit that he had in this one, because like you didn't even really have to be paying attention that closely. And it was so apparent
Yeah.
that they were like rotating guys to get him double teamed. Like the touchdown that you mentioned where like they're in the red zone and it's just like you see the safety come down and then like this guy is standing in the end zone like wide open for 5 seconds because like the safety vacated and they're double covering Carter and the guy's like hello
Yeah.
and he eventually gets the pass and scores. So he opened up a lot in this game. Caleb Douglas was a wide receiver that had a big game, and a few of those plays were just simply because of Terrance Carter pulling defenders away and allowing these wide receivers and Douglas particularly in this one to have a good game. So yeah, he's a very fun tight end that I'm really hoping when we watch his film gives us a reason to be very excited about him as an NFL prospect.
Yeah, he also I just will mention another sick highlight that he had because he had a play where he's running just like an over route. Runs a nice route against a safety or like a slot corner. I'm guessing. Listen, he's a white guy. He's probably a safety, and he comes up to him, gets on his toes, shakes him, has a yard of separation. Quarterback throws it like he's running this way. Sorry, audio only people. And he's reaches back and like plucks it back over his back shoulder, and one hand pulls it down. It's like if he doesn't, the guy that's over the top is catching that ball, and it's a pick. It's like it's just the small things that he's doing in these games that it's like this is an awesome player.
Nimble Giant
Right.
badge is what I gave him.
I like it.
Specifically for I think you mentioned the one play where he was like in the flat and broke like 3 of his 5 tackles on that one play. It's just like you look like a running back. He really does.
He does.
All right. Well, there it is. One season of badges down.
Feels good.
Craziness. I don't know. I don't know what the overall leaderboard
I gotta
says.
imagine Jeremiah's
I think Jeremiah Love ran away with
Lemon.
it.
I
But
mean,
I mean, we had some kind of surprise leaders. I think like Kaytron ended up with a bunch
yeah.
by the end of things, and a bunch of IDPs.
Carnell popped in a
Carnell
few
Tate,
times.
Jacob Rodriguez announced himself as a Camp Dynasty legend forever
Love
this
it.
season. But well, this was obviously a fun season because of the kind of open nature of this class. Like it was very fun to follow along with it and see these names emerge, see guys like Carnell Tate go from like, I like you, but I want to see it to seeing it. And then also seeing guys emerging and on the defensive side as well. So we will be turning our attention to the draft process and watching these guys moving forward. But before we do that, we still got a couple of things to do here. One last time for 2025, bad news at Camp Dynasty. It's time to make the call home. Because it's week 14, though, there's been enough bad news for one season. I don't need all this doom and gloom. Sometimes, most of the time you're making the call home like, hey, your kid there's some problems here. We're going to need you to take care of this. But sometimes you're calling home to be like, look, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your kid has been getting bullied. And I just want you to be aware of the fact that he's been treated unfairly this year. And so I think this is the third time that we're calling the Manning household. But in this case, it's not to dunk on Arch. It is to call Cooper Manning and say, hey, I just want to tell you that Arch has been getting a little bullied here this year, but it's not his fault. He's doing great. He's where he should be. And we're excited to see him at Camp Dynasty again next year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You call it's like, you know, maybe a little bit of disappointment there. Sitting across from the parent in the parent teacher conference, and it's like, hey, we came into this year with some high expectations, and unfortunately, we just didn't get there. And maybe that's not all Arch's fault, and maybe we put too much on him all at once. But finish the year strong, had some nice moments, and we cannot wait until 2027 to see, what this can really turn into for Arch Manning. Because, when you see the flashes, he's a special player. And that's kind of like a tongue in cheek, yes, but we talked about Arch Manning going into the year as our consensus number one summer quarterback, and it was about the flashes. It was about the positives. And you think going in, it's like, yeah, with the full off season, starter reps, you're going in, you're getting ready, and we're going to see wheels up for Arch Manning for this Texas offense. And it was pretty hit and miss. It wasn't all the highs, and maybe hindsight's 2020. You look back and be like, yeah, why did we think he was going to be awesome stepping into this offense day one? But I think you can pretty comfortably say he improved a lot down the stretch and started trusting his eyes a little more, but trusting his legs a little more. I think he's like a good athlete. Like he was just in this game, especially against A&M, tucked it and ran a lot. He's just like, man, I'm not seeing what I like here. I'm just going to go and get in chunk plays. Had one just atrocious throw in this game, but outside of that, like pretty clean. And that goes for a lot of these games down the stretch. So since week 9, been a pretty solid quarterback, and I'm excited to see what Arch Manning looks like in this 2026-27 season.
Yeah, part of the reason that like you want to have this conversation is just because this player, I think, is in a lot of ways a symbol for where we have gone with sports in general, honestly. But like from our lens with Dynasty, it's like we're sitting here every week, we're preaching patience, and it probably sounds like a broken record. And, but it's like this is the kind of stuff where when you look at this player, and it was like we had such high expectations, like you said, and maybe it was like a little bit of wishful thinking to be like, man, these flashes, which were very like the definition of flashes, because he only had 90 passes last year. So it's like to think that that was going to immediately translate into this amazing, unbelievable season. Like maybe that was always, setting yourself up for, disappointment. But I think one thing that we saw this year was like an immediate reaction to some poor performances, and it being like, oh, he sucks. He's like the worst player I've ever seen. And like, what? Oh, he's a Nepo baby. And like, how dare ESPN try to tell me that he's good? And then you see, like you said, over the second part of the season, it's like, wait a minute. He's like kind of stringing together some good games. It's almost like he's a young player that's developing and getting better with more reps and putting up arguably his best game of the season last week against Arkansas with the 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Like he has really set himself up. And then the Nate Tice article comes out where Nate Tice is like, if he was in this class, he'd still be the first overall pick. And then everybody's dunking on Nate because it's like, oh yeah, just because his name's Manning, what if it was Arch Johnson? Like them. But it's like that is the nuance here is like we got to remember that the young player needs a little bit of time to develop, and he's still an exciting prospect that's worthy of getting talked about in this sort of light. So
Yeah.
I think this was kind of our opportunity to just kind of put a little bit of a final, like a period on the 2026 Arch drama from our perspective, and then to say we're still excited about Arch for next season.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that a funny thing kind of happens with, players. This happened with Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're like, what if this was just like Marvin Brown? Like, would anybody say that he's a generational prospect and that he's a and it's like, yeah, because he's awesome. Like, I don't know. And there maybe was a little bit where it's like, oh, is it just because his last name is Manning? And I'm sure it plays a part and like whatever. But I feel like when you watch them, it was just like, there's wild throws here. And there's not wild throws with some of these guys. And whether you're a game manager or you're going to be a franchise changer, changes the dial for a lot of teams. And so I don't know if Manning today is a franchise altering player, but I think there are traits with this player that could lead you down that path.
So that's our little teaser. We're still talking about 2027.
Can't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. But all right. So that is the bad news, but we do not end on bad news. And for the final time this year, it is now time to gather around the campfire and reminisce about the campers of old on All Grown Up.
Already one touchdown. Robinson's going to have two today. He's looking. He's throwing for the end zone. Fingertip grab. And that's a crouch in first and goal. Jeanty. So much power. He's going to bang it in. Touchdown.
This has been a really fun year of All Grown Up because we've been able to tap into 3 years of players, and we're seeing players like the 2023 guys become the stars of the sport. We talked about JSN last week. We've talked a lot about Gibbs, Bajan. I think we finally put that to bed that it is Bajan. Whatever. But so this has been a fun year of All Grown Up. But this is your last opportunity now. We're not talking about these guys anymore. It's all systems go 2026 draft after this. So this is your last chance. Who do you want to talk about this week?
I think we haven't said his name once, I don't think, on these All Grown Up segments. And the guy might be the MVP of the league. Drake Maye.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's the, I think, number 4. So in Superflex, he's number 4 overall asset, according to KTC. Just behind Josh Allen, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, who we had an extended conversation about last week, and then promptly had his worst game of the season. Jamar Chase, and then Drake Maye. Maye has just been like consistently awesome all season. Hasn't had like one of those games that is like, oh my God, Drake Maye did what? But just all year is already up to 3,412 yards. He's getting, like just a clean. It feels like every game we're sitting at like 250 yards, 75% completion or 70% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick, and it's just like every game consistent nails, just running this offense to perfection. It's almost like better than I expected it to be because early in the season, kind of like loose a little bit behind the line of scrimmage where he's rolling around a little bit, getting sacked a lot. He's not playing on time, but he's still getting it done out of sheer just like talent, because that's kind of what we talked about with Drake Maye. Is like he's a little bit raw. There's a lot here to work with, and like you love what this player can bring to the table. But like if things go the wrong way, it's because he's just back there buying time, taking sacks, relying too much on the athleticism. And it's like he like flipped a switch, and it was just like yeah, I'm just not going to get sacked anymore. I'm just going to play on time. I'm going to hit my back foot. I'm going to deliver this ball, to Booty, to Diggs, to Douglas, to Henry. Like, he's spreading the ball. This is the sign of, like, a great quarterback, is everything that Drake Maye is doing. It's, he's completing passes to 8 different receivers, and, he's got 200 yards and a half, and he just had a masterclass this week against the Giants. Didn't have to do much in the second half because he had it cleaned up. There's like 31-7, thanks to defense and special teams too. Give him credit, but Drake Maye, I mean, is just been incredible and might already be the MVP of the league in his second year.
I'm glad that we're doing this with our last one, because Drake Maye was one of our favorite guys in 2024. I mean, he was my number 13 player in that one, and that was high. I mean, it was high, and we talked a lot about him alongside of Caleb Williams. Like, you and I were both like Caleb all the way, but also like Drake Maye is not really like super far behind either. And one of our, kind of narratives was also Drake Maye over Jaden Daniels, like, easily.
Yeah.
And so here's one of those situations where, like, we're just talking about this with Arch. There's development that occurs with these players over time. And Drake Maye was one of these guys that was coming in way younger, way more underdeveloped than a guy like Daniels was, who had multiple years of starting experience, was a 5th-year player, was like 2.5 years older than Maye. And it was like everybody saw the rookie seasons and were like, what the hell, man? Like, Jaden Daniels all the way, and why this Maye guy kind of sucks? Like, what the hell? So it's like, it's stuff like that where now, and to be clear, like, Jaden Daniels has exceeded our expectations. We've talked about that a lot. We've been transparent about that. Was probably too low on Jaden Daniels at the end of the day. Still an amazing dynasty asset at quarterback, absolutely. But if you pose the question to me today, which one of these guys would I rather have in Dynasty? It's a pretty difficult question to answer. And honestly, I'd probably lean Maye. So it's like, that's what we're talking about here, where not even a year ago, the answer seemed so cut and dry, so clear cut. Obviously, Jaden Daniels is the better player, the better asset, whatever you want to say. And now here we go. Drake Maye developing, getting better, elevating this team, elevating this offense, becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL already, potentially the league MVP in only his second year. And when we look at that from a dynasty angle, last season, he bottomed out in October at quarterback 19 in non-superflex. So he hit quarterback 19. Think about how many quarterbacks there are that are like, this is a nothing asset. Like, he's fine, whatever. Drake Maye was behind some of those guys at points last year. Yeah. And I know that KTC is not always indicative of, okay, I can go out and trade, Jared Goff for Drake Maye straight up or something. I get it. But the point is, people were giving up on him a month and a half into his rookie season and pushing him down their KTCs when they went onto the site, because it was like, well, yeah, this guy's not doing shit, so I'm going to drop him, obviously. And now, in one quarterback, he's at quarterback 3 right now. So this is kind of a great little encapsulation of why we are so adamant about this whole idea of patience and not making snap judgments after even one full season in the league, because these guys are not static. These players are dynamic. They're constantly developing, especially these young players that are coming into the league very much half-baked.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. You're talking about these guys that, you're talking about them almost as like fixed assets. You're like, they're either a project or they're, a high ceiling guy or they're a high floor guy, and you almost like lose yourself in the fact that Drake Maye is trying to be the best football player on the planet. Like all these guys, that's their goal, is to like be the best player in the league. And when they have that like kind of energy to them, and they're like put into a situation that benefits them, that also matters a lot, because a lot has changed between last year and this year with the Patriots. You can see ascensions like this where he's playing on time in a system, but the system is also great, and the free agents they signed helped a ton. So there's a lot of variables that go into this. I can acknowledge that, but I think Drake Maye is also playing out of his mind.
I was just looking at the rookie rankings right now just to see, because this is our last chance. And we like to do this, I think, every year, which is like, yeah, there's a few weeks left in the NFL season, but also like, what's the temperature check right now on who are going to be our buy low candidates entering the off season? And like, there's obviously a few names that stand out here on this list. Caleb Johnson, I don't know that we need to, we've gone down that road. It still isn't happening. I'm still not giving up on him, of course. See the Drake Maye conversation. Not that I think Caleb Johnson's
Chimere DK.
Right, exactly. Like there's obviously value to be had there.
Who leads the league in yards, by the way? I'll put that out there. Chimere DK.
Overall yards, yes.
Well,
an all-pro returner, perhaps.
Yes.
But there's maybe some value to be had with like guy. I mean, we've also talked about Matthew Golden already, and he keeps the value is a plummet.
Yeah.
And when you look at the KTC, we're looking at Mount Everest in terms of how this thing has gone. And we're on the downside of it right now. So that's a name that I'd maybe be looking at in terms of, we weren't the biggest Golden fans, but at some point.
Great song, by the way, Golden.
Good.
I don't know if you. Never mind.
What
the people that know.
If you know, you know, and I don't. So that's one that stands out to me for sure. But who else?
We can't get away from this week without talking about Devin Neal.
Okay, that's fair. Well, let me have it.
Devin Neal was pretty solid in this game. Played without Alvin Kamara, and was the lead back in the Saints offense. Had 14 carries, 47 yards. 44 of his yards came after contact, getting the like full Ashton Jeanty treatment of like getting his ass whipped at the line of scrimmage and still churning out decent yardage total. But the thing I wanted to highlight, and 5 missed tackles forced, which is good. That's a good number. The thing I wanted to highlight is in these last 3 games, the last 2 games specifically, when Kamara was banged up and then ended up leaving last game and then was out this game, just a full-time pass catcher. And I was saying, if you were listening, I was telling anybody who had ears, Devin Neal needs to be a pass catcher in the NFL. He has the skill, but the stuff in the open field that he can do is just really impressive. And came out, he had 7 targets last week, and then he had 3 targets this week. He had 5 catches and then 3 catches. Just like when he's out in the flat and it's one-on-one, I feel really good about that. And like he's proving it. He had one where he got stuffed, but in general, it just like he makes guys miss in a phone booth. He's a professional running back. Like we look at what he did at Kansas, and he's just like their all-time leading rusher, most touchdowns in school history. He knows how to make yards, but he also has, this elusiveness that pops out every once in a while that's like hell yeah, here's Devin Neal. And I don't know what the future of the Saints team looks like. I don't know what Alvin Kamara's future looks like. I don't know what Kendre Miller's future looks like. But I know Devin Neal is looking pretty good right now, and he is like the waiver guy, and maybe people are disappointed that they didn't get their 18 points out of him from this week. But I like to see my son play football, so.
Devin Neal, where are we at here? Running back 49. So
Buy low.
go throw a fourth at Devin Neal. I mean, maybe you missed the window now. I don't know, but I mean, the 8-point whatever it was this week maybe keeps that door open for another
Rookie
week.
running back 14 seems kind of low.
That does seem very low. That's what I'm saying.
Dylan Sampson.
Yeah, the rankings every year I look at this and I'm like, what are we doing with some of these? I mean, the Ollie Gordon
is that a thing? Like
holding at 26 is just shocking to me.
Are people?
I mean,
that
Ollie
afraid?
Gordon is above Jalen Knoll, Trey Harris, Pat Bryant, Kyle Williams, like all these receivers that we really liked that are like kind of flashing at points that give you a little bit of like hope that they are going to potentially turn into something. And it's like we have Ollie Gordon. It's just sitting here, like the guy who's behind Devon Achane and like not really doing much with that.
Like Devon Achane, top 8 running back in football, top 5 running back in football. Like, why are we like? Yeah, he's gonna be the goal line back. Like, no, they're gonna throw it because they don't run it on the goal line. Sorry, if you want your potential 6.6 points per game. If he scores a goal line touchdown, sure, you can have Ollie Gordon, but they're going to go ahead and give Devon Achane 27 touches.
So needless to say, all 4 of those receivers that I just said, I would consider them all buy lows right now.
I really like what I've been seeing out of Pat Bryant. You were a bigger Pat Bryant fan than I was. But I thought that he's looked really good in that Denver offense. Trey Harris, I mean, it's been a really weird year for the Chargers in general, and he was kind of a weird prospect coming in out of Ole Miss, where it was like just this huge play threat that could do a lot of things, but kind of jack of all trades, master of none. But yeah, I think that there are buy lows for those with eyes to see them.
Trey Harris is an interesting one because he's going to end his rookie season with a very uninspiring stat line. But when you consider that the player is behind Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, and like Quentin Johnson, like disappearing, like whatever's happening with him, he's getting on the field more and more every week, and they have now like made him their main wide receiver when they go to heavy personnel. Like they are basically making him their blocking wide receiver, which to me is actually exciting because if they're trusting him already as a rookie to block in these heavy sets, like Keenan Allen's not a long-term solution, and Quentin Johnson is like apparently not a player again that is going to factor in long-term either. So I think this was always one of these wide receivers that was like, he probably wasn't going to be this year ever, but to see some encouraging stuff out of him. And then for him to also probably end his rookie year with like maybe 250 receiving yards. And everyone's going to look at that and be like, well, that sucked. What's this guy? And that's when you go get the guy who got drafted in the 2nd last year for maybe a high 4th. And so that's certainly one that I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was this game or not, but he had a really nice, like, 3rd or 4th down catch that was like, oh my God, I can't believe that they like trusted Trey Harris in that situation. But yeah, he's like becoming a part of the offense where you're starting to see like 9 out on the field more and more, and it's like, oh, I kind of like that a lot. He was the lead blocker on one of Vidal's like really big runs. He pancaked Jeremy Chin. So
there it is.
Don't hate that.
Anybody else? Do we have a mic drop player to ride off into the sunset on?
God, a mic drop player. That's a lot of pressure.
I mean, do we just talk about Ashton Jeanty? Do we close the chapter
We're
by
on a clip farm for Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down. He's back.
Well, I mean, and I feel like it makes sense to make him our last player because of the fact that he was the player
yes.
coming into the year and all of last year, and it's been so up and down, and we've talked about him before, but it feels like now, like KTC in particular, I've watched it all year. It was very steady. Like, people were not pressing the panic button immediately in the way that they do with a lot of these other players. Jeanty was one where I think people understood the situation that he was in. They respected the talent that he had. But now it's starting to happen. We're getting towards the end of the rookie year. It still hasn't really changed. There's been moments, of course, but and now you're starting to see that the red arrow on KTC. You're starting to see him go down a little bit more each and every week, it feels like. So now we're going to have to enter an off season perhaps where maybe you are in a league where somebody drafted Jeanty and maybe they are disgruntled and maybe you have lost confidence in the player yourself because you're, am I really going to go pay multiple firsts for this guy now that he's, running behind who's ever the third string guard for the Raiders at this point? It's like, I feel like there's enough reason here that even a savvy Dynasty player might start to get like a little bit like gun shy about Jeanty, but where are you at this point?
Remember when it was, what was it, week 4? Remember that? And it was like it all's coming together. Well, you had the 65-yard touchdown. It was like, yeah, we're so back. And it's just like, hasn't been inspiring. There's been literally, outside of Brock Bowers, zero reason to watch this rate. Max Crosby, also obviously, but like outside of those two guys, has been zero reason to watch the Raiders. This offensive line is abysmal. Geno has looked terrible as probably a result of that. They've already fired their offensive coordinator. Every week he'd get questions. Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, both would get questions like, hey, why are we not getting Ashton Jeanty the ball more? And every week they'd be like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, give him the ball more. Like, that's what we want you to do. But they're like, yeah, that's sometimes the game script doesn't predicate that. And it's like, you make the game script, man. Like, make it that. Like, how about instead of throwing it to Trey Tucker 11 times, how about we give 2 more of those touches to Ashton Jeanty? But either way, the touches aren't turning into much. So, like, I kind of get it because your O-line's so bad that you can't establish this run game, even with a player that had 2,600 yards last year at Boise State, a guy that never averaged less than 5.5 yards per carry throughout college. And I know there are going to be people that are like, oh, it was Boise State. And, maybe you're feeling vindicated right now. And I hope you take this time to enjoy it while it lasts, because it's not going to last very long.
And that is my takeaway from this season is like situation will always mean more than you want it to. Like, even players of this caliber are not immune to feeling the effects of horrific situations. And the Raiders are a horrific situation.
Look at Justin Jefferson right now.
Yeah.
That's like
literally
in the conversation for best wide receiver in football and can't muster up more than 10 yards in a game.
I mean, and you can point to Brock Bowers and you can be like, well, Brock Bowers is playing in this situation. And like, And then you're like, well, yeah, okay, Brock Bowers, like, he's having a good season, but it's been buoyed by like 3 games where he's making like the best catches you've ever seen. Like, so it's like when the player is making plays like that, sure. But that's what it takes for players in this offense to succeed. And with Jeanty right now, 6th in the NFL in missed tackles forced with 42. 6th in the NFL in missed tackles forced as a player that is meeting contact behind the line of scrimmage more than any other back. So he is literally doing everything he can with the situation that he's been given. And the one number that really sticks out, 3 runs of 15 or more yards. That and when you sort like I am right now by missed tackles forced in the NFL, each of the top 10 guys. Wait, can I count? 2, 4, 6, 8. Of the top 8 players, he is the only one that doesn't have at least 13 runs of 15 or more yards, and he has 3. That is an indication of what is happening to him every single time he gets the ball. He's forcing tackles behind the line of scrimmage. What are you supposed to do? You meet contact behind, you're going to turn that into a 15-yard gain? No, you're going to turn it into a 2-yard gain. So that is what's happening here. And also 2nd in the NFL for missed tackles forced as a pass catcher.
That's what I was just about to bring up. Is he's been a very capable pass catcher, which is something he didn't really have to do at Boise State because he was so prolific on the ground.
He did it the first year, and then didn't do it the last year because he just torched every run that he had.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, I don't need to throw it to him. We can just hand it to him. It's a lot easier. Has had 5 or more targets in 5 straight games, and then 8 targets in 2 of those games, 6 targets in one of them, and has put together, he's 251 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns on the season. So if you're in a PPR league, you probably look at the Ashton Jeanty number at the end of the day, and you're like, aren't sick to your stomach, but it's not what you were. I mean, I was like pounding the table saying Ashton Jeanty would for sure be a top 5 back, and like that's not going to be a thing unless he has the Boise State numbers for the last couple playoff weeks in your fantasy league, but I'm not sure he'll be doing anything on fantasy playoff rosters. Hey, maybe for you. I know you got him.
Well,
You'd have to have a pretty stacked team if you got Jeanty and you're in the playoffs.
We'll see. Thank God for IDP because I have Saquon and Jeanty, and that's not really working for me at the running back position.
Yeah, it sounds pretty hot before the season.
Somehow, despite everything, RB13 in our scoring settings, at least, which are pretty standard for running back. So it's like, despite everything, he's somehow finding a way.
Almost an RB1.
So, I mean, but let's close the conversation by taking a look at a few trades that have involved Ashton Jeanty recently. I don't know where these come from, by the way. This is off of KTC. Can't tell you where they're pulling these, but we have situations here where Ashton Jeanty is being sold for a mid 26 first and a mid 27 second and a mid 26 fourth. A 1, 2, and a 4 for Jeanty. Like someone's cashing out. They're like, I've seen enough. I want the picks. I want to take Denzel Boston instead of Ashton Jeanty. Like that's where we are with in some cases.
We get Denzel Boston. We get Vandrevius Jacobs, and we get some random guy in the 4th this year.
Yeah.
Like, I think I'd rather have Ashton Jeanty, but maybe that's a hot take.
Okay. Here's this one. This one's close and maybe not even. Ashton Jeanty for Tetairoa McMillan, a 26-1 and a 26-2.
I mean, I love Tetairoa, but like you can't like. What's the point of trading Ashton Jeanty right now? Like if you are like the biggest Panthers fan in the world and you like need Tetairoa McMillan on your team and you know whatever, go do your thing, but like I'm not going to co-sign that.
Yeah, that one is interesting.
It's closer, obviously. Like it's like if you are feeling some type of way about Jeanty, as somebody who has Jeanty, if that's a guy like put in your inbox, so how are you feeling about that? I think you decline it.
I would decline it.
Yeah.
I would think about it for longer than I wanted to, based off of what I would have expected to happen at the beginning of the season.
Right.
But
you look at
also,
it, you're like, I can't just smash decline right away.
Yeah.
Something's preventing me from doing that.
But so that's just kind of illustrates that people are they're putting themselves in these positions at this point where somebody might send that offer of a first and even if somebody sent you 2 firsts right now, I think there's a handful of people out there that would be like, all right, like I'm a little bit frightened by this Raiders situation. I don't know if it's going to get better anytime soon, and I'm just going to take my picks. I don't agree with it, but I think that's kind of where we're at.
Might have to make an offer.
There you go. Not to me, though.
Not to you.
I will decline.
I know. Past our trade deadline.
Yeah, all that illegal activity also. But all right. Well, there it is. It's a good way to end it. 2025 college football season and talking about the campers of old around the campfire this year. Like I said, fun season. And really, we're just getting started now, because now is when it gets very real, is when we stop talking about college football. We start talking about the 2026 NFL draft. Next week, we will be doing our second mock draft of the year. First, with all of the information available, like how these players did this season. No, we haven't gotten deep into the film quite yet, but we know a lot more about this class than we did even in the summer. So we're going to be able to do that. We're going to have a better look at what this thing could look like. We probably going to have, crossing our fingers, somebody to keep us honest as well, a friend of the program, a returning guest, wink, wink, that's going to come and help us out. And he might have some different opinions than we even have at this point. So we'll see how that goes. But it's here, my friend. 2026 draft season.
Yeah, feels like a finale of sorts,
Yeah.
the badge ceremony finale. The long episode for you guys. We're getting in deep with a lot of different players in the college side and the NFL side. As we say, not goodbye to this class, but, goodbye to this format of how we do this week to week. And now it's time to move into the next phase of getting in, really digging in, and making some decisions.
If you enjoyed our final 2025 season discussion, be sure to find us on Twitter, camp_dynasty, and TikTok, camp.dynasty. But most importantly, if you are watching this on YouTube right now, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you have not done that already, because that helps us out. We appreciate it. And if you're on the pod feed, hello and thanks for being here. And also make sure that you follow and like or rate or all of those little interactions. Write a review if you want to do that. Hey, man, these guys, they're pretty stupid, but whatever. That's fine. Do whatever you got to do. We appreciate it all the same.
I wouldn't appreciate that. I'll say it.
I'd be like, thank you for your engagement. I'm typing as I'm crying on the keyboard.
Yeah, I would be like, man, I didn't need to hear that today, but all right. Sick.
I was having a good day before that. What the hell?
Thanks, internet stranger.
Any any parting words? Is there any film news out there?
Marty Supreme Christmas Day. We're going to see that. Avatar Fire and Ash, no generative AI. I think James Cameron has said that 1,000 times because he said once in an interview, he's like, yeah, we used AI to make the Avatar films. And now he's got to be like, hey guys, not generative AI. That's not what I meant. Like, we're talking about good AI. And so he's been on making sure that he doesn't get slandered. But yeah, I'm excited about the December slate of stuff, and then Oscars is right around the corner. Yeah. One battle after another, Supremacy. Here we go, baby.
The first Camp Dynasty bonus Patreon episode, whenever that becomes a thing, is our Oscars. Our take on the Oscars. How about that?
I once did a solo radio program comparing the 2025 class to the Oscar race.
I remember that.
That was kind of fun.
Maybe we should think about that.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know if we have the audience for that. I don't know if they'll be dug in enough. They'd be like, sentimental value? What?
Thanks for stopping by Camp Dynasty this week, and we'll see you next week.